What's up guys, it's Chad with Living the Van Life. As you guys know, I like to spend as much time in my van, off-grid, out in the backcountry, exploring, and just being out there living some van life. And when I'm out there doing that, there are several systems that I rely on. I rely on my 12-volt Engel fridge freezer to keep my food cold and fresh. In the wintertime, I rely heavily on my diesel heater to keep me alive in sub-freezing temperatures. It's 11.4 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Here inside the van, it's 70 degrees and 21 degrees Celsius. So with the diesel heater in here just trucking along, it keeps things nice and comfortable. And so that I can continue to bring you guys all of the Living the Van Life content, I have to keep my production equipment powered and charged while I'm out there on the move as well. You can see the wings just fold out. And there we go, we've got our drone. We got the EOS R here. It is now rolling on one angle. Now all of this is made possible by my newly installed off-grid 12-volt battery system. And this system truly allows me to get out there and stay out there. Today we're going to talk about the components that come together to make up such a system and why I chose what I chose. I would like to note that I'm not getting paid to talk about any of these products in this video. These are all products that I chose for my system based on the design, the reputation, and the quality of these items. Now REDARC Electronics and Battleborn Batteries did step up to the plate and graciously provide me these products so that I could build this off-grid battery system. First off, let's talk about the batteries that I chose for this system. Now I started off this project completely on the wrong foot by wanting to take the cheap route, and I originally installed two 6-volt flooded lead acid golf cart batteries. And on my first winter camping trip into sub-freezing temperatures, I learned my lesson the hard way that perhaps these lead acid batteries might be the most inefficient batteries for what I needed here in my van. Unfortunately, I have some sort of voltage issue going on with my battery setup right now. I have actually ran out of battery power. So basically what that means right now is I don't have any heat, which is interesting because I just did an upgrade on my battery system. So I should be good for days on this setup. Because lead acid batteries lose power and efficiency with the colder that the temperatures get, they left me completely stranded with no power, no heat, while the snow was coming down heavily outside. It's cold outside, the snow is still coming down. I reckon we probably have had close to 20 inches worth of snow. Nonetheless, it's going to be a night without heat. It was one heck of a miserable night, that is for sure. I learned my lesson the hard way, but I now realize that you don't take the cheap route when it's a system that you rely so heavily on. So it was back to the drawing board for me, and I have now installed a far superior battery by installing two 100 amp hour lithium ion Battleborn batteries. So taking a look here inside the closed cabinet, you can see I've got two of these Battleborn lithium ion 100 amp hour batteries. I've got one here, and I've got one tucked in back there. Now these are wired in parallel, so I get a total of 12 volts, but I get a whopping 200 amp hours of power when those are wired in parallel. And because they're lithium ion, I can use a full 100% of that 200 amp hours. Whereas with the lead acid batteries, I could only use 50%. Now let's talk about a few of these points of why lithium-ion batteries are far superior over lead-acid batteries. And first off, let's talk about weight. Now, these two Battle-Born batteries together weigh in at about 60 pounds total. That's about half the weight of the clunky lead-acid batteries that together they came in at 120 pounds. And when you're dealing with a small space like this and a small vehicle, that weight adds up very, very quickly. So having the less weight by the lithium-ion batteries was a huge plus for me here in my Vanagon. One of the other great things about lithium-ion batteries is the fact that they have a much less internal resistance. Now, why is that important? Well, because in a mobile off-grid system like this, we're constantly on the move. We're relying on alternator charging, we're relying on solar power charging, and we don't have a lot of time just to sit and let our batteries charge. So with a battery that has lower internal resistance, those batteries will take a charge much, much quicker over lead-acid batteries. So that is so important to be able to maximize the solar energy coming from the sun, as well as the DC to DC charging coming from the alternator if I'm driving from camp spot to camp spot. Because of the science behind lithium-ion, these batteries do not lose power and efficiency when those temperatures drop colder and colder, like I experienced with the lead-acid batteries when they left me completely stranded that cold night. It has become dangerously cold out here. Fingers are frozen, toes are frozen. The temperature is -2 degrees Fahrenheit out here on the plains. With lithium-ion batteries, you can discharge these batteries 100% at full efficiency, at full power, at way colder temperatures. It's just downright cold. While it is a known fact that you cannot recharge these batteries when the internal temperature of the battery is at 25 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, Battle-Born is actually working on developing a system that will get around this and make this possible. In fact, because of my cold winter camping, I have 2 of those prototype batteries that I'll be able to talk about at a later date, so stay tuned on that. Also, with lithium batteries, you get the full rated power. If it says it's rated at 100 amp hours, you can use 100% of that 100 amp hours. Whereas with the lead acid batteries, that is completely opposite. If you've got a lead acid battery that says you have 225 amp hours of power, you can only discharge a lead acid battery up to 50% before you permanently damage the battery. So really, on a 225 amp hour lead acid battery, you're only getting about 112.5 amp hours. But with lithium, you get what you see. 100 amp hour battery, you get to use 100% of that. These Battle-Born lithium-ion batteries are now the heart of my 12-volt off-grid battery system. They've proven themselves that they can be something that I can fully depend on with zero battery anxiety. Okay, so with Battle-Born batteries, you've got some seriously badass batteries, but they aren't going to last forever on one single charge. So while you're out and about, you got to have a way of being able to put power back into the battery so that you can keep on going in your adventure. That is where the REDARC Electronics Manager 30 comes into play here on this system. The REDARC Manager 30 is a one-of-a-kind, all-in-one 30 amp charging and management unit that automatically switches between solar power charging, shore power charging, or DC to DC charging while you're driving and you're getting power from your alternator. Like I said, it's all automatic switching and it's an all-in-one unit. That is key when it comes to being in a small space like the Volkswagen Vanagon. And because it's all automatically switching between the different power sources, there's no having to flip switches before you drive or after you park. It will automatically pick the most efficient power source that's available at the time to the unit and provide those Battle-Born batteries the most efficient power to keep them charged. And because it is a battery management system, the Manager 30 comes with one of the most intuitive and comprehensive battery monitor screens that I think I have come across personally. The REDARC Electronic Manager 30 is truly the brains of the operation here inside my 12-volt off-grid battery system. To me, the reason it's so important to have a comprehensive monitor on your battery system is so that you can tell precisely what's going on with your batteries. So here we've got a close-up of the Manager 30 battery monitor screen. Here on the home screen it tells us the day, the time, and the date. We can scroll up from there and we've got the charging status. It tells us that we're in boost stage of charging, we're in touring mode, our voltage on the batteries right now is 13.4 volts, and it also gives us a battery temperature of 71 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's kind of nice to know. Now if we scroll up from there, then we get to the output status. Now this is one of my favorite screens because it tells us everything that's going on in the system. This right here represents the Manager 30. This right here represents the loads that are being used on the system. And this right here represents the auxiliary batteries. So with this little map here, we can tell that the Manager 30 is putting out 2.2 amps. The loads are using 2.9 amps. So in that case, the battery is having to put out 0.8 amps to keep up with that. So it's great to know everything that's going on, because if we need to turn off a load, here I'm going to flip off the fridge, and now we see that load drop to 0.4 amps. So now we can see that 3 amps are going into the battery and we're now charging. Now if I turn the fridge back on, then we're going to see that that battery is going to have to start feeding power into the system to keep up with the load draw. This screen right here, very, very handy. That's one thing that I love about this whole entire Manager 30. From there, we're going to scroll up again. This is the input status. So here we've got solar. Right now we're getting 18.6 volts of solar. The next line down from there is the shore power. You can see we're not getting any power coming from shore power. That's going to be if you're plugged into AC. Maybe it's your garage, maybe your house. Down here, this is also showing no charge coming from the vehicle, which is going to be your alternator or DC to DC charging. We've got another menu option. We can scroll over here, and this is going to tell us our solar information. So today's daily total is 287 watt hours so far. Now this is a 100 watt solar panel up top, so we're using about 30%. So I could use this information to try and maximize more power and see if I can get up to 100 watts. So maybe I might move the vehicle around and get it into better direct sunlight. This information here is useful when it comes to getting the most out of your solar panel. If we go back, we scroll up again. This is our battery charge status. Right now we're at 94% capacity. Now this line down below here is also very handy. You can see it says 8 days until flat. On the current load of the battery system, it's telling you how many days, hours until it's full or until it's flat. So this, like I said, being comprehensive, gives you a full understanding of how much more power you have to use while you're out in the backcountry off-grid. The Manager 30, because of this unit right here and how it manages the different power sources from your solar to your shore power to your DC to DC from your alternator, the Manager 30 truly is the brains of this whole entire operation. Having this screen here just gives you the confidence and the understanding of how far you can go off-grid and how long you can last. Very cool component right here. To me, that eliminates a lot of what we call battery anxiety. You know exactly where your battery state of charge is. You know exactly how much solar you're bringing in. If you're driving and you're charging off your alternator, you know that you're getting the power to your batteries. That's the cool thing about the Manager 30, is it gives you all that information. And to me, that gives me so much more confidence going out into the backcountry, knowing that I'm going to be able to maintain my self-sustainability. So to help supplement my power system while I'm off-grid, I've got a 100-watt solar panel mounted to the top of my van. While 100 watts isn't enough to get the system all the way back to 100% necessarily every single day, it certainly does help supplement the system. The cool thing about it being mounted on the pop top is that I can adjust the van in such a way that I can pop the top and really get that angle of the sun hitting directly on the panel and maximize that 100 watts. As you can see, I've got my top popped here. The solar panel is actually pointing towards the sun almost perfectly. That means my REDARC Manager 30 is actually keeping my Battle-Born lithium-ion batteries fully charged. Even though I've been using my system all day, it's still sitting at 100%, miles and miles off-grid from any sort of power system. Another important thing to consider when it comes to an off-grid battery system, that is an inverter. Now, an inverter is responsible for taking 12-volt battery power and inverting it up into 120-volt AC power, or perhaps if you're in a different country, it could be 220 volts or 240 volts, depending on your region. Anyways, an inverter will give you the ability to run household appliances on a 12-volt battery system. Down here in this cabinet here, this is where I've installed the Victron Phoenix 12. This is a 1200 watt pure sine inverter. This takes care of charging up all of my camera batteries and any other things that I might need to run on AC power like my laptop or anything else like that. So that I'm not having to dig down into the cabinet every time I want to turn my inverter on, I have conveniently placed an on-off toggle switch right here on the front of my cabinet. That turns my inverter on, that turns my inverter off. One of the cool, unique things about the Volkswagen Westfalia Campervans is the fact that they came outfitted with a stove and a sink. However, over the years, I've gotten to where I do all of my cooking outside of the van. And after not using the sink and the stove for the last couple years, I decided it was time to do something else with that space. If you look here underneath this cabinet, you can see that I've removed the stove and the sink, and I've actually converted it over to camera storage. And as you can see here, I have a power strip that's installed. That's inverted power. So with this power strip here, I'm able to plug in camera equipment, my laptop, or any other household appliance and operate it in my van, off-grid, out in the backcountry. Between my Battle-Born lithium-ion batteries, the REDARC Manager 30, the Victron 1200 inverter, and my Engel fridge freezer combo, I've got everything that I need to survive completely off-grid and be sustainable for a long period of time. And as long as I've got sunlight, my solar panel is keeping this thing up and going, and I can just be out doing what I love to do and not have to worry about running out of power. Alright guys, I hope this sheds some light on perhaps how you can go about setting up your own ultimate off-grid battery system. If you guys would like to know some more information about any of the products that I've talked about in this video, make sure and check out the links in the description down below. If there is anything I left out of this video, or if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure and leave them in the comments section down below. If you guys made it this far into the video and enjoyed your experience, consider hitting the subscribe button. But don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button, because that is what's going to notify you anytime videos like this are uploaded. For those of you subscribers that have been with me for a while now, thank you so much for all of your support. I always enjoy interacting with you guys in the comments. I'm gonna get out of here and hit the road and get out into some backcountry and enjoy all of this. Guys, peace out. Keep on trucking.